In this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast, I have my buddy Krysten Peek with me, and we are going to talk about the impact that NIL has had not only on the 2025 draft, but the 2026 class. Big shout out to each and every person that has made the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast your first listen of the day. And I'm your host, Rafael Barlowe, along with my co-host, Krysten Peek. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. If you're not subscribed to the Locked On NBA Big Board YouTube channel, please subscribe, like, share, comment, and click the bell so you can be notified every time we drop an episode, because the draft is coming up. It's right around the corner. Krysten, we're like, 3.5 weeks away?
It's the most wonderful time of year.
And the most busiest time of the year.
Yes.
And plus, we're both doing like EYBL stuff too. So it's
absolutely. Never ends.
There's no break. But if you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe and make sure you click the bell so you can be notified every time we drop an episode, because we are covering everything regarding the NBA draft. All right, let's get right into it. We haven't spoken since Chicago, and quite a bit has changed in the NBA draft landscape since Chicago. You saw all the college coaches there, and the deadline for players to decide if they're going to stay in the draft or return to school was on Wednesday night at 11:59. I think LeBaron Philon, at least the news came out at like 10:52 or something like that, like right before. So my first question to you is, were you shocked at the number of guys that decided to return to school? And how do you think NIL is going to impact the next few classes?
Absolutely. I had a conversation with an NBA executive at the NBA Draft Combine, and he said to me, KP, NIL is just so out of control right now. If you are a projected second round pick, why wouldn't you go back to school? There's so much money to be made at the college level right now. Go back, continue to develop your game. You might have a breakout year and you can help your draft stock. Instead of fighting in the G League on a two-way, making $500,000, return. Go back to Kentucky, get $2 million, become the SEC Player of the Year. These are the selling points that you see these coaches giving to these players. And I don't think NBA scouts and executives are necessarily mad about it. Like, yes, if you have a second round pick in this year's draft, you're kind of now going deep into your draft boards. Like, who's going to be there? Who are we going to be taking? I think we're going to see a lot of international prospects kind of hit that scene that second day of the NBA draft. And so at the end of the day, it helps the game of basketball. These players are getting paid. And I'm not mad about it, but I might be in the majority. I mean, I just saw Princeton transfer Xavier Lee, who is headed to Florida. He is inked to make $6 million between an international shoe brand with Serious Player Only. That's the name of the brand. I've never heard of it. He's making $3.5 million from an overseas sports brand on top of his NIL money that he's already getting from Florida. So you see numbers like that. You see numbers like JT Toppin not even going through the draft process because he was going to get $4 million from Texas Tech. You see the amount of money that the roster construction that these teams are reportedly making. Most of the high-profile teams have more than $10 million in NIL budget. You see what Kentucky did, where they made their entire athletic department its own LLC, so they can control that in a more controlled environment outside of the university. The landscape is still the wild, wild west. There are going to have to be some rules made at some point. But right now, it's like, go get your money. Go get paid. Like, I'm not mad about it.
Yeah. Like I mentioned yesterday in the podcast I don't know if there's a better situation than being the man or the woman, in a sense, on a college campus. You're around your peers. You're around nothing but people around 18 to 23. And what do most college students lack? Money. So you have money. You're going to enjoy your best life with money in your pockets. And no offense to the G League, I started off working in the G League, but I was outside of the Dallas area. I would much rather be at a Kentucky or a Baylor or Kansas than traveling between to Rio Grande and Des Moines and those particular cities. No knock on those cities, but I just think being a college student and the amenities and the luxuries that you have at these bigger schools is a lot better than what's in the G League. Another thing that you mentioned that I think could be interesting is you mentioned international prospects. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of international prospects in the second round of the NBA draft, simply because they can make more money in college. And another layer to that is there's a max that NBA teams can pay on a buyout. But because this NIL thing is the wild, wild west, a college can pay more on an international player's buyout. So this draft is going to be pretty thin. So I wanted to ask you this, and I asked my brother this. I don't even know if it even made the cut in an episode. I may have to delete it because we went over. But I was talking to a GM at the Combine, and he says, I don't even know why we're bringing some of these guys in. Like, it's almost like we're wasting our time because this is the guy's projected range. And with his range, it doesn't make any sense for him to enter the draft. But then on the other hand, someone else said, well, it's always good when you get a chance to know these guys. You may not draft them this year, but you spend some time with them and you get to track them a little bit more. What are your thoughts on guys testing the waters when realistically it just seems like they're going to go back to school?
You can always learn something. You can always learn something about a player, whether it's his body language, whether, I learned something about Carter Knox at the draft combine. The fact that he's gotten serious about his body, his lateral movement looks a lot more smooth, something that we weren't seeing at OTE, something we did not see at Arkansas. So I learned something. I mean, he's still going back to school. So I think, yes, they are very long days. And, for people that are listening at home, they're like, but you guys are there to watch basketball. They are very long days, sitting through the drills.
Days of the year, 15-hour days.
Yeah, sitting through the drills first and foremost. And the first two groups are very exciting because we're seeing the top prospects and we're seeing, Derek Queen shoot from three. Is he going to be a pick and pop threat? Then we're seeing, guys completely kill it on the shooting star drill, which, by the way, looks like the most exhausting drill I've ever seen. Just from one point running to the other opposite to another, they literally make a star for about 2 minutes continuous shooting. So seeing Trey Johnson and Walter Clayton Jr. completely destroy that drill, and Cedric Coward come out, and poor Duke fans are like, oh my gosh, Cedric, can you miss one shot, please? Like, we want you on campus at Duke. And Cedric tested completely, off the chains. He was a joy to talk to during the media session, which means he's going to kill it in the interviews. And he obviously decided to elect to stay in the draft. But I always feel like, yes, they are very long days. They're very long weeks, but you're always going to learn something. And I'm fine with players going and testing the waters, so to speak, and then electing to return and do it again the next year. That's only going to make them more comfortable. They're going to have a year under their belt and be able to come back a lot more confident the next year.
Yeah. And he was more so referring to the individual team workouts and the scheduling aspect, because you're trying to get these guys in, but you have a smaller window because of the deadline, but you want to get to know guys, but at the same time, you're like, he's not going to be in the draft. He's going back to school.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on prospects? Of course, they want to get invited to the combine. That's, a big opportunity for you, but also knowing like getting invited to the combine is a leverage play for more NIL money, especially if you are in the portal.
It is a chess match, Rafael. It's a chess match for the agents. It's a chess match for these college coaches and these college general managers, and it's a chess match for the NBA. I was talking to a team, and they might have some roster reconstruction, and they were wanting to get a player in that is a projected late first, early second round. And the agent came back to this team and said, no, we're not going to come see you guys for an individual workout because we don't know what you're doing with X, Y, and Z player. So we don't want to waste our time. So these conversations are always happening. It's chess. It is chess at the highest level. And now with NIL, I mean, of course, agents are going to use that as leverage, saying, listen, he's already got NBA interest. If he comes back, he's going to bring more eyeballs. You're going to get more scouts. You're going to get more attention. You might get more TV games if you just can get to this number. And that's what agents are doing. And so, I just go back to it. There's no rules. There's no regulations. If you want the player, you got to play by the rules of the agent. And when you look at a team like Kansas, they missed out on 3 players, 2 other teams. And they also missed out on players that like RJ Lewis, who was, where was he? Is it St. John's?
Yep.
Yeah. And he elected to stay in the draft when he was a big Kansas target. And so, yes, I know you have Darren Peterson coming in, but you also need some wing help as well. And they missed out on Dame Sarr, who ended up signing at Duke. And they also missed out on Jameer Watkins, who went to NC State. So they're
stayed in the draft.
Oh, Jameer Watkins. Sorry. He stayed in the draft. It was Darion Williams. So Jameer Watkins, RJ Lewis stayed in the draft. Darion Williams went to NC State. Dame Sarr went to Duke. And so you're Kansas and you're like, we are the Kansas Jayhawks. We just took big swings on 4 guys and we completely missed. So now they're, struggling to get something. But it's no shortage of entertainment and news for basketball fans.
Yeah. And PJ Haggerty went to cross-state rival Kansas State. Right. Up next, we are going to dig a little bit deeper into who are the real winners of the deadline decisions. Is it the 2026 draft? Is it college basketball? Is it the programs like Michigan and Arkansas? Or who are the big losers like Kansas? Stay tuned. NBA fans, you know what time it is. Playoff season means big performances and even bigger rewards. And DoorDash is bringing the heat with a slam dunk deal for Dash Pass members during the 2025 NBA playoffs. It is called If They Swoosh, You Score. Anytime a player drops 50 or more points in a playoff game, Dash Pass members score a free 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop the very next day. All you have to do is place an order of $20 or more and use the code WINGSTOP50 at checkout, and that combo is yours. Crispy, delicious, and totally free. The offer is valid from noon until midnight the day after the game. So if you've ever looked at your delivery fees and thought there's got to be a better way, with Dash Pass, you get 0 delivery fees and exclusive perks like this one. So imagine how much money you would save over a season. So sign up for Dash Pass to unlock this and more exclusive deals all season long. And when a player scores 50 or more in a playoff game, if you are a Dash Pass member, you can grab a free 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop the next day. But you have to have an order of $20 or more. But if you use the code WINGSTOP50, the free combo is yours. So Dash Pass, your door to more savings, more flavor, and more ways to win. Terms apply. All right, second segment. So I wanted to dig a little bit deeper into like the chess game. And I've been hearing so many things from agencies that are really protecting their guy, which is that's their job. Teams wanting to bring guys in. I've seen where a guy had a strong combine and now his schedule is full and teams can't even get the guy on the schedule to bring them in. They just want to watch him work out. Then there's the international prospects like Neopolis Abdallas, Ben Henshaw, Lachlan Ulbrich, who had a phenomenal combine. He went from the G League elite camp to the combine, had a game where he was 7 of 8 from the floor. From what I've heard, even though he started off his college career in the States, I've heard that schools are poking around to see if he has one more year of eligibility. And the international guys, I don't think they have to make a decision until June 15th. But like, can you just give me like an interesting story that you've heard about some of the chess matches that are being played?
Yeah, a couple stories. I mean, you talk about these teams, they want to get these players in for individual workouts, and that's outside of the NBA draft combine. That's outside of their pro days, whether that was in Chicago or out in LA the very next week. But we also have to remember sometimes they're not able to get these players out. And on draft night, you're seeing certain players fall and you got to take them. And I remember Michael Porter Jr., when he fell to 13 or 14, he was the number one high school player coming out. He came back and I was talking to him and I said, Mike, when did you first hear from the Nuggets? And he said, KP, I'm not even kidding you. The first conversation I had with anybody from the Nuggets organization was this morning. And they wanted me to send over my medicals. And that was the first time I had talked to anyone there. So, and of course, Michael Porter Jr. has been very successful for the Denver Nuggets. So there's always going to be something that happens. But at the combine specifically, I mean, you look at Michigan and you look at what Yaxel Lindenborg, what he did at the combine. I know we all thought he was going to stay in the draft. The Michigan coaching staff that made the trip to the combine, that was essentially babysitting him, they all thought he was going to stay in the draft. So for them just to kind of continue that relationship and point to Danny Wolf and say, listen, you can come back to Michigan. You can come back with the pieces that we're bringing in, because they went out and Dusty May did a hell of a job in the transfer portal. Mike Boynton, the associate head coach, did a great job in the transfer portal. So I think that was very appealing to someone like Yaxel. And he even mentioned it. He mentioned it at the combine that he was able to have a lot of good conversations with Danny Wolf. And that definitely weighed into his decision. So just having conversation. And then the coaches are like, oh my God, we had to go from here to a live period. I don't even know who's on these players, on these AAU teams. We've just been up to our necks in the portal. Like, I don't even know who I'm going to be watching during the live period. So they are just nonstop, straight from the college season to the transfer portal. And then they had to go and deal with a live period and figure out who they wanted to recruit at the high school level.
Yeah, and I made that trip from being in Chicago, working those long days. I went straight to Memphis. But here's another thing that's really interesting that I don't think I've heard anybody talk about it. So when players, like there was a number of players that didn't even test, who we were absolutely shocked that they didn't even test because they had significant NIL offers.
Boogie Fland?
What's that?
Boogie Fland?
I heard he was in Chicago.
He made the trip to Chicago, and then the day of testing, he went through medicals. The day of testing, he just said he was pulling out of the combine, which was so weird to me. And I'm so sorry to cut you off, but he was a player in the pre-combine workouts, individual workouts that he was traveling to 4 different teams. I all got positive feedback from what Boogie was doing from a workout standpoint. So I thought that was going to be enough for him to stay in this, but no, he decided to stay in the transfer portal, got his bag, and he could win a back-to-back title with Florida.
And then left his team, his combine team, with no point guard.
I know.
So, and they were bad. I mean, they were getting smacked around. But Isaiah Evans, I think he was on the list. He decided to go back. But one of the things I would not have known how NIL impacts teams. So, for example, there were guys that didn't test, who most people thought should test because they had significant NIL money before the combine. How it impacts their teammates who may have felt like, well, if he's getting that much money, I deserve this. All right, I'm going to put my name in the portal. So you had schools there that were trying to re-recruit their own player who's in the portal, but he's at the combine, but he's upset with the school because he wants a certain amount of money that a teammate got. I don't want to mention the names of the schools and the players because I don't want to get aggregated, but that's an interesting dynamic. So let's talk about the winners. Like, who is the biggest winner from the NIL's impact on the draft? Is it the teams because they're getting older players, or is it the 2026 draft? So in your opinion, who's the biggest winner?
Okay, the biggest winner, and I'm saying this a little tongue-in-cheek, but actually not really, are the agents of these NIL athletes. The way that they're able to get the amount of money that they're getting for their players, they are the winners. It's unbelievable. But in all seriousness, I think the 2026 draft only gets better and better. We know what's projected at the top with AJ Dubonsa, Darren Peterson, Nate Ament, Cameron Boozer. But if you're getting these returning players and they're going to have one more year under the belt. I was talking to a team and they were hoping that Dame Sarr would stay in this draft because they say, KP, in next year's draft, we have him anywhere from late lottery to first round. If we can get him at a fraction of a price a year ahead of time and then bring him into our system, that's a win-win situation. But obviously that's not happening. Dame is heading to Duke. But I think the 2026 draft gets much better. I think if we look at teams specifically, I think the Florida Gators, obviously you mentioned Boogie Fland, Xavier Lee, the Princeton guard, he was fantastic, one of the top players in the portal. And then Alex Condon electing to return to school, 6'10". I thought he was pretty good at the combine as well. He's going back. So Florida Gators, the rich get richer. You look at Milos Uzan, who was at the combine. I thought he had some really shining moments. He's electing to return to Houston, and Houston has a ridiculous recruiting class coming in. So he's going back. And Kelvin Sampson was at the draft combine watching Milos. And I talked to Milos, and he had already worked out with a few teams. And he said, KP, I don't know. I got to talk to my coaches. We got to figure out what's the best. But they really want me to stay so I can be that dog leader for this freshman class coming in with Isaiah Harwell, with Krysten, and kind of show them the culture for Houston. So I thought Houston, and then Auburn with Tahad Pettiford coming back, and Arkansas. No, Kentucky and Michigan are the other two. When you have Uwe coming back, Otega Uwe, one of the most athletic players. Are you kidding me? Like he's going to be a front runner for SEC Player of the Year. And Michigan and what they've got with Yaxel coming back and the players that they have coming in.
All right, up next, I want to get Krysten's thoughts on the 2025 NBA draft. Is it too thin? Are we going to see a lot of guys that may have probably not been drafted sneak up in the top 40s? All right, last segment. So let's talk about the 2025 NBA draft. Like I mentioned, I think it's 28 days away. So it's getting closer and closer. I need to book a ticket to New York. But what's your overall thought on this class now? Like
it's thinning out. It's thinning out. And that's not, it's fine because you still look at the top and there's still going to be some great cornerstone elite players at the top. But as you get to the end of the first, beginning of second, and you're looking at your options, it's thinning out. I don't know. But I do believe that, every year we all have to do in the draft space, like a prospect list of the top 100 available players in the draft. I think this year alone, even though we look at last year and how it was considered a weaker draft class, this year is going to be harder to do. Are you kidding me? 100 trying to list the top 100 available prospects in this year's draft after all the players that are returning. I think we're going to see a player, like Jackson Robertson, who got some draft buzz when he was at BYU. He transferred to Kentucky. He's got good size at 6'6", but he's on the older side, and we haven't really seen him improve. He's kind of plateaued. I think he's a player just because he's a senior. We could see him get drafted, and it's so interesting to me just looking at, Tyrese Proctor. Of course, he's going to stay in the draft because he got over recruited, but where was his draft range before he had that couple game stretch in the NCAA tournament? Where was his draft range at before the NCAA tournament? Where are we going to hear his name? Micah Peavy. I thought he had a very interesting combine. I think he's someone that's really excelled just being patient in college and going through 3 different programs and really developing as a player. I think he's someone that we'll hear called sooner than what people imagine. And they're going to say, who is this? He was at Georgetown. Oh, then he was at TCU. Like, who is this player? I think there's going to be a lot of that, but also it's opening up opportunities for players like that, for 5 years players that can come in and they're more equipped to battle in the G League because they have the physicality, because they have so many years under their belt, and they're not just going to get drowned out from the older experienced players that are already fighting for a roster spot in the G League.
I was just thinking, just listening to you talk, could there be a chance, and I think it's very realistic, that a player that was not even invited to the NBA Combine because the teams did not invite him as one of their top, how many guys were invited? 75?
75, yeah.
Gets drafted. I
Yes,
think it's a real possibility that someone will,
absolutely. Absolutely.
like, you may go from Portsmouth to not invited to the G League Elite Camp or the NBA Combine, and you may hear your name called in the 50s. That's how wild this class is. But do you think the teams are a little bit disappointed? Because I know I had one team tell me, usually in a draft, you can get a young freshman who just didn't want to go back to school, who you can take a chance on and develop. But now you're not going to get that opportunity because you're either a lottery pick as a freshman or you've played 4 or 5 years. Do you think the teams are going to miss those young guys, or you think they're going to like the fact that, hey, we're going to draft a guy that has experience with a late second round pick or maybe even a two-way guy, and we prefer that?
I think for this second round specifically, I think you're going to see, the decision makers really lean into their scouting department. That's why every NBA team has so many scouts and has an entire scouting division, both internationally and domestically, is for situations like this. Okay, we're not going to get this kid, but who saw this mid-major kid how many times? Okay, you did. Give me your full scouting report. Can we get him in for a workout? Great. Maybe he wasn't at the combine. Okay, great. Let's try to set ourselves up for every best case scenario on draft night. And that's what you want to do with your scouts and your scouting department. I can't tell you how many times I've had a scout say to me, and I don't think it's going to happen this year. It's like, we do all this work. We travel like crazy. We go to hundreds of games, all for draft night, just to give all of our opinion, all of the information that we've gathered. And, we hope that the information that we have provided is enough for our entire group to feel comfortable about drafting and investing in this player's future and this player and how they're going to fit into our system, into our program. And that's all you can do. So I think you're going to see a lot of teams kind of lean more into their scouting departments and try to get creative in the back half of the second round.
Yeah, it depends on how you look at it. A big win for scouts, because now if you're a guy that's been pounding the pavement, going to mid-major conferences and North Dakota and so on, this is your chance to say, hey, this is a guy I like.
Yep.
And I think he could be a two-way guy, which
right.
in a normal year, he may have been an Exhibit 10 guy. All right, so here's a question for you, hot seat question. So
God.
I know you're based in the desert, so you're used to the heat. Who is or are the biggest losers from the
from the combine? Okay. Oh my gosh, I thought you were going to say who are the biggest losers in the draft, and I was like, oh, come on, Rafael, you cannot. You cannot ask me that question. Losers. We touched on it. The Kansas Jayhawks. Yes, they're winning with getting Darren Peterson to come in, but they struck out on all 4 players that they were really targeting in the transfer portal, either to the draft, Jameer Watkins, RJ Lewis, or Darion Williams, who went to NC State, and Dame Sarr, who went to Duke. And another, do not come for me, Duke fans, but another loser that was a loser for about a week until they got, Dame Sarr and Sebastian Wilkins was Duke. Like, they lost out on Cedric Coward. Everybody could see his potential at the combine and how great he was. I mean, he only played 7 games at Washington State. So a lot of fans, a lot of people didn't necessarily know what his game was about. But look, he was by far one of the biggest risers from the draft combine. And so you had Blue Devil fans hoping that he would stay and play alongside Cameron and Caden Boozer, come back, play with Isaiah Evans. But like I said, they swung and a miss on Cedric Coward, but they got Dame Sarr and Sebastian Wilkins to reclassify the 5-star wing. So they're kind of like loser, but then they won. Another loser, the Arkansas Razorbacks. So Carter Knox is returning, correct? He's not staying in the draft?
Carter Knox is going back.
Okay, Carter Knox is going back. It's funny because he thought at the combine, he said, no, I'm leaning towards staying in the draft. So Carter Knox is going back.
That Tyson chicken.
Yeah. Yeah. So Carter Knox is going back. That's a win, but they're losing Adu Thero, who, by the way, I was at his pro day at Impact Gym here in Las Vegas, and he was by far the best player there. So Adu Thero is staying in the draft. They also lost Boogie Fland, but you have DJ Wagner coming back. You've got Malik Thomas coming in and Darius Acuff coming in. So they're going to be fine. But when you look at, what you're losing in Adu Thiero, that was a big loss for them. So those are just a couple teams, when we look at the draft combine and what you would be getting in gold. Instead, you're losing either to the transfer portal and other teams or to players staying in the draft. Those two teams specifically stick out to me.
To me, the biggest losers are the high school graduation class of 2025. Yeah. Think about these guys some guys committed early to schools only to be over-recruited for the school to bring in somebody else from the portal who may be even better. Years past, if you were a top freshman, you could probably be penciled in to start. But now you're competing with a guy that might have averaged 18 at a mid-major school, and he's 23 years old. So then let's say you are a freshman and you bypass that. With everybody coming back, the 2026 class is going to be stronger, which means I think some guys who are probably thinking that they're going to be in the 2026 draft may get pushed back to 2027.
Yeah, no, that is a great point. And listen, if you would have asked, there's a few players that come to mind. If you would have asked Isaiah Evans going into Duke, I'm going to shine alongside Cooper Flagg, I'm going to be a one and done. Things change. And I'm not mad about these players recognizing, their potential and the fact that they can develop, still get paid, and play in front of their peers and not rush the process. But you're right. Because now the draft is getting older and older, that means college is getting older and older, and it's eliminating opportunities for these star freshmen coming in.
Yeah, I think every year it happens to where there's somebody that we project as a one and done, needs more time, but now it's like they're getting older, and again, you commit too early, the school may bring in somebody else out of the transfer portal to play your same position because they're ready to win now. And then we can end on this: the 2026 high school graduation class is not very strong. So I think a lot of guys are probably going to be in their best interest to be two-year guys and come out in the 2027 NBA draft.
That's an excellent point.
We're projecting way ahead. Well, that wraps up this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast. Once again, thank you for making this your first listen of the day. We are out.